For waiting. Sorry for the slightly delayed start. But anyway, if you're joining us from the audience at Guitar Summit in Mannheim or on YouTube, welcome. And it is my honor to have probably one of the finest sounding guitar players on the planet, Mr. Andy Timmons. Welcome, please.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Now.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Believe it or not, I think you were one of the first guys I ever interviewed on the Andertons YouTube channel.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I know I've kind of bumped into you at shows and stuff in between, but it must have been 8 or 9 years ago, I think, that we had you back when we used to shoot video in a broom cupboard at Andertons.
It was a little space, I remember.
So tell me, let's catch up since then. I mean, you're one of these kind of artists that I think is so synonymous with your ability to make the guitar sound beautiful. So let's talk about that. You know, you're in a world of hyper talented, shreddy guitar players.
Yes, indeed.
But you still get booked. So,
well, I mean, for me, it's not a competition for me. But I am uber aware of just hoping to have a good melody, a good sound, you know, and presenting it like that. And people do tend to resonate with that kind of music. It's always impressive, you know, and it's the kind of thing where you always want what you see others, you know, and I see so many great players out there that have amazing facility in that. And so I still strive for those things, but at the end of the day, it's that the right note at the right time with a great sound. That's what moves me, and it was always Jeff Beck's ballads that got me, you know, and the way Larry Carlton played a ballad, or Steve Lukather, his solo on "I Won't Hold You Back Now." It's just some of the greatest moments ever recorded, and so I just try to strive for those bars, you know.
Do you have to consciously rein it in sometimes? Is there a sense that actually I could play this part to impress, or I could play this part to add?
Well, I think in my earlier records, like my first solo CD was called Ear Ecstasy, and I'd been in Danger. Before Danger, I was already, you know, writing and recording instrumental music. So I was eager to show myself. I want to be like Satriani and Eric Johnson and Steve Vai. And at that time, it was like, yeah, man, you got to shred it up. And so there was always that, you know, thing of like, yeah, I really got to give it that energy. And I still love to play that kind of music, but I think it's just natural with age and as your tastes change along the way that you're going to evolve into what you want to hear. You know, I think that for all of us, I think we're just trying to create the music. I want to play the solo that I want to hear, influenced by the music that I love. I want to write the song that I want to hear. That's, you know, and it's based on all the music that I've loved in the past, from Chopin to Brian Wilson, you know, to Kiss, whatever it might be. That the right energy at the right time, you know.
Do you have, I was talking to another guitar player the other day, a guy called Rick Graham, who's a fantastic player.
Phenomenal.
We spent a lot of time talking about, he does this thing called ear training, which is he listens to other people's music.
Sure.
But what he tries to do is he tries to hear the intervals within the chords rather than necessarily where the melody's going. And that really, he's saying that influences how then he writes his own music.
Sure.
And I'm interested in what do you do to sort of listen and absorb and channel?
You use the correct word, the word absorb. You know, I do ear training, meaning I will learn by ear what I seek out. But as much of that is just pure absorption. Like at a time when I was learning jazz when I was younger, you know, you can read the licks off the page and maybe transcribe a little bit. But the thing that really made the difference was just 100% absorption and immersion into the style, so you can actually feel it. You're not just replicating somebody that's done something a certain way. It has to be a natural flow and feel. And for a rock player to get into the dotted eighth kind of swing, you know, it takes a while to really feel that in an authentic way. So now my obsession is Chopin, where, you know, I've always, you know, I love writing just pretty music. And when I started listening to him, I started recognizing the types of things that I'm attempting to do, you know, he had been doing in the 1800s on a very deep level. I'm not comparing myself to Chopin, but I was just recognizing this is a soulmate for me. And so then I made a decision. I want to listen to everything he wrote, and I did. But I was just looking for those moments, like in his Etude number 3 in E major that everybody's heard, or the Prelude number 20 in C minor. There's an emotional depth that he gets to that I don't hear hardly anywhere else, and that's what I'm striving to do. I want to find those places that makes people feel something, you know.
Do you know, I wish those old composers had given their songs better names. The idea of going, my favourite song is the 8th movement of the part 4
I know,
of the 9th. It's just like, why don't you just call it Wonderwall, and then we'd all remember it better.
There's some of his famous pieces, you know, people give them titles, but that's not necessarily what he had in mind. Like there's the Raindrop Sonata, because it sounds like raindrops hitting the windowsill, or Suffocation, which is the most beautiful, it's the most gut-wrenching piece. Anyway, but I agree, because I don't know the numbers either.
So let's talk now. Many guitar players, I think, over the last decade or so have changed their rigs. Let's talk gear, right? We're all here to see the gear.
Gear nerds.
So many guitar players, I think, have chosen maybe convenience and portability over just what's the best. But you're not one of them. You know, you've kept it real and old school.
Not yet.
Maybe with the trapped nerve, that I'll see you walking out of the show now with a quad cortex under your arm, going, "Yeah, this is so much easier."
Exactly.
But I think it's, I don't know. I don't play at the level that you play at, but I still, to be inspired by a guitar tone.
Sure.
I have to really, really be in it in a way that only the old gear kind of.
Well, so there's a lot of levels to that idea, and my thought is I'm not a purist. It's whatever inspires somebody to pick the guitar up. That's the most important thing, regardless if you have the most expensive amp and all the right pedals and, you know, a 59 Les Paul. It kind of doesn't matter as long as you've got a guitar that feels good and makes you want to play it. You know, that's the way it was when I was a kid. I never had quality guitars. Just the shape and the sound, I just had to do it. I could never not play. But then as you grow and get more aware of tone, then the journey continues. But there's tracks on my first CD. I was mentioning Ear Ecstasy. I had a Zoom direct, you know, because some of those tracks I would have thought were demos, but then I couldn't beat the performance. Like, okay, so, you know, but now I'm a bit of a purist now, in that, you know, I'll want to get the greatest tone every time I can. You know, there's times where, you know, it's a necessity to go direct for sound purposes, you know, or limitations in volume. But I'm always going to prefer a nice, really high headroom 100-watt amp with pedals in front. And
this might be useful, because I think everybody out here, we're all playing maybe at home and with gear that has a limitation, a volume limitation, whatever.
True.
If you're presented in a situation where maybe the gear isn't as good as you would like it to be, what techniques do you rely on to just make sure you can still do a job and still sound good?
It's a lifetime of experience of being in those situations where maybe you have a backline silver-faced twin and you're trying to get a great rock sound. But even yesterday I did an interview. I had my pedal board, but it was a different amp that I wasn't used to. And I got my sound relatively quickly, and it starts in your ear. You kind of have to have an idea, you know, what you're going for sound-wise, and then over time, your hands figure some of that out, and then of course you learn how to dial the gear. And because most of my signal chain is based on pedal settings going into a clean amp, I'm not reliant on it being a specific gain amp. If I can have a nice flat, even clean sound, then if I've got my pedals, I'll be okay. I can do all the tone shaping there. And sometimes I don't have that, but it does start in what your idea of the tone is that you're trying to get, and it's you know, it's just, for me, it's like I'm always trying to reach my heroes, be it Hendrix or Eric Johnson or Stevie Ray or whoever you think has the best sound, and then we try our best to get to that level, and we can't, because we're not them. The physiology is a thing, you know. Everybody's fingers and body. That's part of the sound. There was a friend of mine that did a study that even the acidity and your pH of your sweat has a part to do with the tone.
That sounds very Eric Johnson to me.
Well, it was a study done by a professor on Eric Johnson's tone. That's how he said it's down to Eric's.
I can tell you, we had Eric for a show. So everybody knows who Eric Johnson is, right? And everybody knows all the sort of the stories, the myths about the fuzz face, that he gets the sound by taking the back off the fuzz face and all this kind of stuff. I can tell you it's all true, and I can tell you that his tech Eric Johnson will even tell his tech that something isn't right if his tech has used the wrong mains lead to plug an amp in with.
Easily. Okay, so and I too, used to think, some of these things sound pretty far-fetched until you start trying them. So there was a time where I went to see Eric Johnson. He did a side project for a while called Alien Love Child. This must have been the mid-2000s. And we went to the gig, and he had his pedal board, but his tube driver was now on a wooden platform at a certain angle. And that, I'm like, oh God, Eric, what's going on? And I asked his tech. I think it was somebody before Dustin. And I said, yeah, so why is he doing that? Well, he was playing one day, and I had to straighten the cable, so I lifted up the tube driver. He goes, what'd you do? Don't move. Okay, now fast forward, I was recording my record called Resolution. This is 20 years ago. And I was in the studio, and I was also using a tube distortion like Eric. And there was a moment where the tube driver was feeding a Marshall into a cabinet in another room, but I didn't have my guitar plugged into it. I was playing through something else. Well, we kept hearing sound come from the tube driver. Nothing plugged into it. So what's going on? Well, there's a tube in the pedal. And so microphonic resonation, it's actually very obvious. So what Eric realized is that when that pedal's off the floor, it's not picking up the vibration of the low end. It cleaned up my sound. I got out 2x4s, I set it on top, and it cleared up the low end massively. So all these things with Eric, as you say, so much of it is true, and it's that kind of obsession that drove him to get to that level of sonic, quality.
Do you want to start a new brand with me? We call it the Timmons Anderton, and it'll just be a piece of 2x4 that you put underneath all your pedals. We'll charge €99.
Look for it next year in Guitar Summit. Yeah, that's right.
We'll make a fortune.
I think so. This is the secret to good tone.
There's so many stories about that. We don't have time.
Okay.
So let's talk about. We started to talk about your gear, and obviously you've been a loyal Ibanez endorsee for years.
Yeah.
What's the secret, I think, to that longevity, and not just with Ibanez, with Boogie as well? You've been a loyal guy. What's the secret?
Loyalty is important in all aspects of my life. Obviously, in the profession, where relationships really matter. And this, Ibanez made a guitar for me in 1994, and I'm still playing it. And there's plenty of companies that make great guitars, and there's been times where I've had offers from other companies, but I didn't want to be that guy jumping around to different, what's the best offer I can get. They're just great. This is a family business. It's a great bunch of people, and they make the guitar that I love, so why not? There was a minute there I was like, okay, my headstock's a little pointy, and if somebody sees me playing, even though it's a very Strat style guitar, they see a different headstock, they might have an opinion about what I sound like before they hear me play. Because if I see a guy playing a vintage Strat, I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
I'm exact. Yeah. I got a Strandberg headless guitar.
Okay.
I could never be seen playing live with that, just because people would go, he's going to play like Pliny. And I'm like, exactly. I'm not going to play like Pliny. Yeah. So I know what you mean. It's like it says something about you, doesn't it? I think that's why the Strat's so easy, because you can be sort of anonymous, can't you?
It can be it's just up to the player.
Yeah.
As we were talking about hearing Philip Sace last night, which is just kind of, it's everything about the Strat that we love. He's the best amalgamation of Hendrix and Stevie Ray and all the great Strat tones wrapped up and just taken to Mars.
Yeah.
I love that guy a lot. He's so great.
He's phenomenal. Are you a total fanatic when it comes to buying new pedals? Do you like buy a new pedal every week, or has the pedal board kind of evolved now and it's pretty set?
There's always cool stuff coming out. I've been extremely fortunate to work with a couple of companies. You know, JHS has a distortion pedal, but that we worked on, and then but now with Robert Keeley, where we spent a year and a half trying to come up with my ultimate delay, and we did it. I got to say, we achieved what I was hoping to achieve.
Great.
And so we're also working on some other new stuff to be continued. But I mean, sound is so inspiring, and to try a new pedal and to see what's possible. I tend to stick to the usual stuff, but there's always a space or two on the board, like, oh, I could swap that out.
That's the problem with those little mini pedals, isn't it? You just go, oh, I could definitely squeeze that little pedal in between
just
those
one
two
more,
other ones.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing, I'm still having the hardest time figuring out fuzz. Every now and then I'll get it right, but I can never get back to it. It's a very...
That's the fuzz. That is...
I guess that is the fuzz.
You've just described fuzz. That's the problem.
All right.
I've changed the fuzz pedal on my board about 50 times.
Yeah.
Because I sound amazing one day with it, and then shitty the next day with it.
Exactly.
So I don't understand.
I don't know.
So what is the fuzz pedal at the moment?
I seem to be a fuzz face guy.
Okay.
And I have just a standard issue Hendrix blue one. Mm-hmm. And I've got vintage stuff. I've got one of Eric's old germanium ones that he let go of years ago. It sounds okay for me, but it's got to be him playing it through the. It's so depending on the amp and how much gain is happening there. But I love the old Sovtek Big Muff, the Electro Harmonics. And Robert Keeley just came out with a version of his Octasci, which is this crazy...
The one with the octave... Yes.
It's got the octaves. I use it for low octaves.
Yeah.
But now the fuzz is based on the green Sovtek Electro Harmonics. And it sounds great,
He's a sweetheart, Robert Keeley.
I love the guy.
Yeah, he's a
We
good
love
guy.
you, Robert Keeley.
Okay, well, look, I think we're kind of, we're pretty much nearing the end of our time slot.
But we didn't sing anything. We're supposed to sing.
We're supposed to say, are we doing a cappella?
We could.
Oh my God, you don't want to see that. We're clear the Guitar Summit in 3 seconds. What is happening with you? You band-wise, touring, tuition, what's new music?
All stuff,
All
I'm
the
working on
above?
2 records right now. There's a set of solo pieces. There was the song that is famous for Dan from the pedal show crying when I played it. It's called Here Lies the Heart. But it's a series of solo pieces that are based on my love of Chopin's Nocturnes.
Okay.
So it's called the Outlier Nocturnes, and we're working on that now. Very clean, nice echo, that sound that I love so much. But a new trio record with the Andy Timmons band will be happening next year. And we'll start touring a bit. We're coming back to Europe in March, a couple of weeks of dates. And... you can find me online all my guitar courses either on TrueFire, or I have a subscription site called Guitar Experience, no E, guitarexperience.net. And I've got over 60 of my songs transcribed, and I show every note, break it down, show you how I did it, talk about the gear, talk about how I wrote it. So it's good to document these things along the way. And I love trying to help other people because I'm always learning. And if I can inspire anybody else, then I'm honored by that,
Oh, well, look. Thank you so much for taking some time out today to come and chat to everybody. I hope your back gets better soon.
It's a pinched nerve. I'm limping around because I've got this...
I'll give you a hand off the stage.
That's my fibula.
But, man, and please, let's come back to Andertons and we'll
I can't
do
wait.
a part 2.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Please,
guys.
everybody, round of applause for Andy Timmons.
Thank you, everybody.